Okay, I'm joined today by Adam Franklin, who, along with his business partner Toby Jenkins, have written a brand new book as we speak. It's about to be released, and by the time you hear this, it will be out in bookstores. It's called Web Marketing That Works. There we go, mirror image, Web Marketing That Works. Old school, Adam, hard copy.
Yep, the dead tree format, Trevor.
And through Wiley, which is one of the biggest business publishers in the world. So congratulations on the book. I've had a read, and there's a lot in it. It's how long did it take you to write?
Well, to be honest, it was a 3-month process of actual writing, from basically when the book proposal got approved, we had a book deal, to the manuscript being due was 3 months. And then after we handed that manuscript in, we got it back from the editor, which was that they basically transformed it in a good way, made us sound a lot more articulate. And then we had 3 weeks to edit it, which was a really intensive process.
So tell me, why did you come up with the book? Why did you do the book? Is it part of building your business and your profile for Bluewire Media, which is your company?
Totally. It's been a grand dream of ours for a long, long time, and ever since we followed Vern Harnish and his book Mastering the Rockefeller Habits, he's always advocated to own the ink in your industry, and whether that's through blogging or through podcasts or through YouTube videos, that all helps. But he says books are just a really great way to cement yourself as an authority.
I like that, own the ink. And speaking of ink, one of the top bloggers and someone who we both admire, David Mearman-Scott, who's got a fantastic blog called webinknow.com. You managed to get him to write the introduction or the forward.
Yeah, David was kind enough to do that. It stemmed from, I guess, 5 years ago when we collaborated on the web strategy planning template, which has become our flagship piece of content and a really good lead generator for our business. But David and Toby and myself, we collaborated on that a number of years ago, and it sort of was the start of a sort of friendship. And we've kept in touch, and he was kind enough to write the forward for us.
So tell me about that. I've listened to a few interviews you've done on podcasts, and we know each other personally, and we've spoken before. So walk us through this template, because when it comes to content marketing, there's blog posts and there's podcast episodes and there's so much you can do, but then there's sort of flagship or signature content that businesses can create, and this is kind of like evergreen content that is relevant over a long period of time. Walk us through, how long's the template? What is the template? How long have you had it up there for online, and what sort of impact and influence has it had on the growth of Bluewire Media?
Sure. So it's basically it's one sheet of paper. It's a double-sided PDF, so very, very concise. But really, what went into it was months and months of reading dozens and dozens of books, attending conferences, attending workshops, following loads and loads of blogs, and really trying to distill everything in the web marketing space, but turning it into something that we could sort of show visually to our clients, and so that a layman could look at it and understand basically what we were on about. So on one side it has a diagram, which we call the 20,000 foot view of your web marketing universe. The website sits in the middle, and around it are things like backlinks, Google search, social media and content marketing, and then the actual commercial things that can take place on your website. And then on the back side of that is basically a template that you fill in, and it's basically got room to fill in information about 2 different buyer personas. And a buyer persona, as you know, Trevor, is basically a way of describing your ideal customer, and it goes through who they are, what problems you solve for them, why you're remarkable, what sort of content you're going to publish, where you're going to publish it, and then some success criteria to determine how you're going against it. And that piece of content it took months and months to create, but it has now been downloaded over 10,000 times. It was in David Mearman-Scott's best-selling book, The New Rules of Marketing and PR. And it's kind of been the turning point for our business, in that before that, we were doing all the blogging and we're doing all the email marketing and had clients and whatnot, but there was nothing that sort of bridged the gap and gave our marketing teeth. But this piece of content, giving it away for free and in exchange for an opt-in, an email opt-in, has really helped grow our database, grow our credibility, and it's been, even with our best private clients, it's been the distinguishing factor between them deciding to engage Bluewire Media as opposed to a competitor.
So a couple of things on that, and Bluewire Media being a web marketing firm, but a couple of things with that. One is that you used it primarily, well, apart from the credibility side of things, which is a given, you've used it as a way of getting opt-in, so subscribers to build your email list.
Yep, absolutely. And for the first 12 months, we didn't have an opt-in form, so we basically gave it away as a free download with no registration required. We did that for 12 months, and then we thought, well, we'll test that against the more of the HubSpot philosophy of, well, capture a lead and then nurture them with email over a period of time. And what we noticed is that the conversion rate dropped from probably about 50% when there was no registration required down to about 30%. And whilst that seems like a fairly decent
when
drop...
When you say conversion, you're talking about people actually coming on and downloading it?
Totally, yeah. Yep. People coming on to download it. Yep. So first of all, 50% conversion rate, they didn't need to fill anything in. They just literally hit the button and they got the PDF.
So of the 50% of the people who visited your site?
50% of the people that visited that page on our website that it was housed on.
Okay, so that's when there was no lead gate, as they call it, to put your email address. So that's 50%. And then when you put the lead gate on to get someone's email to download it, it dropped to 30%. But yeah, it doesn't seem like a massive drop, because you hear figures, and it might be different today where there's a lot more out there, I suppose, in terms of content. But, sometimes it can, drop really significantly. So that's an interesting test you've done.
Yeah, we'd expect it. Well, we weren't sure. We always test everything that we do, and there's all sorts of differing advice, and that different things work for different people. Both people can be trustworthy and authoritative, but you've just got to test what works. And with that 50% conversion rate originally, that sounded good, but we didn't know who they were. We didn't have any way of communicating with them, and to us, that was a fairly big downside compared to actually knowing who they are, having their email address, and having permission to communicate with them over time. Had a much better value to our organisation, even factoring in that 20% drop-off rate.
An issue that people have is it depends on your goals. So if it's to build a subscriber base, then that's what you do it for, and that's a bit of a slow build. If your goal is for awareness, get your name out there, holus bolus, and get people talking about you and sharing your content, then you take the lead gate off. So there's no right or wrong, and as you said, it's probably worked for you, because the drop in the amount of downloads actually wasn't massive. I mean, if it went down to 5%, you'd probably rethink it a little bit, but at 30%, that's still quite strong. So it's this template is the gift that keeps on giving. So the other point of it is, this is your IP, as you say. It's taken you years of research. Forget the fact that you've boiled it down and distilled it down to a couple of pages. It's taken a lot of effort and years to earn the right to actually create it, I suppose, and to come up with the information, and that's your, I guess, proprietary knowledge and the way you see the world from a web marketing perspective. What do you say to people who say, but you can't, you sell that, that's your IP, I could never give that away?
Sorry, you just cut out there a bit, Trevor.
Oh, sorry. What would you say to that's your IP? It's what you've been working towards. What would you say to a business that's professional services who would say, well, I sell that. That's my knowledge and IP. Why would I give it away?
Yeah, I think that's the fear that a lot of professional services firms have, is that they fear giving their IP away is going to have a detrimental effect to them. Now, I advocate giving away the vast majority of your IP, because I've discovered that that's what's worked best for us. I would say we give away 90 to 95% of our IP through our planning templates, through our blog, through our guest blogging, through podcasts, through ebooks, and yet we reserve the final 5 or 10% of our IP for the people who are ready to take action and who actually want to implement all this stuff. And that's where we make our revenue. and it's the other 95% of the IP and the content and our experiences that we share online that attracts enough people into our business so that there's enough paying customers for the business to operate.
Which is totally counter to 5, 6, 7 years ago, where it's exactly the opposite way around. You push out to everyone and not give anything away. So it's the interesting times in which we live. And as you say, you're eating your own dog food. Or as I spoke to G2 Martani last week, from who's the managing director of international for HubSpot. And seeing him, we're mentioning HubSpot, and I said, "Oh, you guys are eating your own dog food," and he says, "We prefer to say we're drinking our own champagne." So, but that's you've got the runs on the board because you've been doing it, and a lot of your content and what's in the book and all of this is it's explaining to people and educating people about what you've done and how it's worked for you.
Exactly, and I've certainly found sharing personal experiences to be a lot more effective in telling that story than being prescriptive and telling people what they should do, because anyone can give advice, but to actually share your own experience is a completely different story. The other thing I was going to actually mention is that most organisations already have a piece of content that they most likely share with prospective customers that they don't actually charge for, but it's part of that sales consulting process. Mm-hmm. And to actually uncover what that is, and I call that a flagship piece of content, to uncover what that is and then to be able to share that for free via your website or via social media can be a very, very powerful way to attract those people in, because you're giving it away for free anyway, but you may as well do it on a bigger scale and get more customers in.
And the good thing is, you've got it as a template, but it could be a manifesto, it could be any sort of types of content, and it could start as a blog post or be extrapolated into a downloadable ebook or a SlideShare presentation or an audio or a video or any number of those mediums. So the opportunity for businesses today is to find that flagship content, whatever that is, or pieces of content, and deliver it across multiple mediums, whether it's against the SlideShare, or video, audio, downloadable PDF ebook. It's a fantastic opportunity, and if you do it yourself, it can be extremely cost effective.
Absolutely. A lot of these pieces of content are best repurposed into multiple different formats, because people like to learn and take in knowledge in different ways. So even that planning template can easily be turned into a webinar or a podcast or a how-to video series and a presentation and a workshop and everything else. It actually forms the basis for the consulting work that Toby and I do with Bluewire Media. So yes, repurposing the content is a fantastic way to get more leverage from it.
So I'm a big proponent of, you have the heartbeat of your content and efforts is a blog or a content hub. And I know you're the same. You've been blogging for how many years?
I think 6 now.
6 years. So you're a veteran. That's I always call blogging the traditional social media. What are some tips for people to get started? Because businesses, whether it's a big business or a small business, but resourcing is always an issue. If it's a smaller business, then resourcing can definitely be an issue, and it's often up to the owner or one of the senior partners in the business to get it going. If it's a bigger organisation, it'll probably be through a PR department or maybe marketing, but they're all flat stick as well. How important is a blog to you, and do you think for businesses? And have you got any tips about actually how to break through and get it done and get going?
Yeah. Let me share a story, because in the early days of blogging, I found it very disheartening and I was very disillusioned, because I'd always heard from people that I knew and liked and trusted that if you blog good content or remarkable content, then you'll magically attract traffic and leads and customers to your business. And that advice on its own isn't strictly true, because I blogged for many years and didn't get a whole lot of traction. The difference for me was 2 things. One was having that flagship piece of content as a call to action on my blog, so that if I did attract somebody to my website, to the blog, Then after they'd read that article, I invited them to download the web strategy planning template, which was good because then I converted people into email subscribers and I could communicate with them on an ongoing basis. But secondly was actually trying to get the realization that my blogging was okay, but I wasn't getting traffic because I didn't have enough eyeballs reading it. And the realization came when I actually saw a blog post by Jeff Bullis, another Australian blogger, but his content had been syndicated to the business to community blog. And I double checked with him that everything was legit and they weren't just plagiarizing his content, but it was syndicated with permission. And so I applied to do the same thing. And my first blog post that went up on business to community actually had 100 tweets. And the reason for that is because they had a much bigger audience and were playing in a much bigger pond compared to that very same article on my own blog would have had less than 10 tweets, and they were probably people that we worked with anyway. And so I realized then that my blogging, in terms of my skill and the writing, wasn't the issue. It was finding an audience for my writing, which was the issue. And that's when the penny dropped that, doing off-site content was a very powerful way to be actually getting readers and eyeballs for your content. And so I was lucky enough to actually start blogging for the Startup Smart blog. And that has been a regular contribution that I've done for the last three or 4 years. But a blog is very powerful, but it can be very disheartening when you're not getting that traction. And most people give up. But the key would be, my advice would be to do off-site blogging, more off-site blogging than you do on-site, on your own blog would be my tip.
And so off-site blogging is two things. One is syndication, but the other is guest posting on other people's, so it's a guest posting strategy. And as you said, writing for Startup Smart, your audience is reading Startup Smart. And so it's a classic way of reaching new audiences.
Absolutely.
And if people like your content, they'll visit your blog, and then when they visit your blog, then they've got a chance to looking at the template, downloading the template, all of that sort of stuff. So it's a bit of a loop in that regard.
It totally is. And I always have a call to action at the end of each blog post, especially my off-site ones and my guest blog posts. I always have a call to action to download a template or a tool or an ebook that's most relevant to what I've spoken about in the book. So again, there's more people that are opting in to go on our email sequence.
And the message there is you've got a lot of ebooks and free tools and templates that you give away. So it's not, you have got that flagship web marketing template that we spoke about earlier, but on the Bluewire website, you've got a heck of a lot more.
Absolutely. Once we realised from the success of that first one, we realised, we should be creating more templates because that's actually what is getting a much higher click-through rate. It's getting a lot of traffic and people are downloading it and using it and giving us good feedback about it. So again, it's really just a matter of doing more of what works.
From a content marketing perspective, one of the biggest issues or stumbling blocks or confusion points is SEO, because SEO traditionally has been a bit of so-called non-transparent witchcraft. A lot of SEO proponents don't really tell you what they're doing, and obviously Google's changed the ball game again and again and again. What's your take of where SEO is now? How important is it from a content perspective? Do businesses who are blogging, for example, how much credence do they need to give it? Or is it more important to be just blogging consistently with great content and with personality?
Okay, so let me just define SEO for the purpose of this question, being the technical side of things in terms of getting all your keywords and keyword research done and on-page information so that you're giving the right signals to Google. I think that's very important as a baseline. That on itself isn't going to do a whole lot because there's thousands of other websites all clearly labeled to Google for the same keyword phrases that you want. So the difference is then the quality of your work or the authority of your work. So the authority is typically judged by the number of backlinks. And of course, the better stuff that you write, the more people are going to link to you and share your content.
And social channels as well. Social channels,
social shares, of course, are all more signals to Google that people like what you're saying. So I think SEO, the basics are very important.
Mm-hmm.
I think writing good quality content is what helps you rise to the top of the search engine rankings. But SEO overall is incredibly powerful because you're getting it's free traffic from Google, qualified traffic from Google to your site. So for me, I know each week or each day there's going to be a number of people that find me through Google and sign up for my tools or templates every single day without me having to do anything. Whereas other techniques like blogging, it takes time and effort to write a blog post for somebody else's site. And yes, you do get traffic from it, but Google's doing that day in, day out for free automatically.
But the goal then is to make sure that content is good, that you've put the work in, that it's original, it's not just by the numbers, because that's probably the danger of becoming too SEO focused, is that you do it by the numbers, and it blands it down, becomes almost unoriginal, and as you say, there's a lot of that sort of stuff out there.
Absolutely. Yeah, the quality and the personality and the storytelling it's SEO as the base, and then the storytelling and everything else on top of that.
Now, another element of the content mix is, you mentioned it earlier, buyer personas, something that David Meerman-Scott in his book New Rules of Marketing and PR has been talking about since 2007, and I know you're a proponent of it. I am myself as well, and really it's just a way of not just having a cardboard cutout as an audience or an idea of your audience, but you flesh them out a little bit more and give them a bit of a three-dimensional look at who you're actually talking to. How many buyer personas for Bluewire Media have you created, and do you keep changing them? Do you keep refining them, or you've stuck to the same buyer personas that you created a number of years ago, for example?
For example, yes, we do typically have, there's two major ones, and over the years that has been Nicola, who is a marketing manager and she's dedicated, and her organisation is dedicated to being number one in their market niche. She's got an interested CEO and a supportive IT team, and she's looking to webify her company's marketing efforts. And so her challenges are, well, how do I understand all these new social media platforms and web technologies, and how do I keep my company's marketing going well, but not necessarily having to reach into my pocket for advertising every month, but build something sustainable. So she's our primary buyer persona, and the reason we give her a name is because it helps us when we sit down to write some content or write a blog article, we can picture her. And at the time that we named her, we actually had two marketing managers as clients whose name was Nicola. And so that's the primary one in terms of customers or clients. We do also have buyer personas for staff, because it's also important to be marketing to employees, and we also have another buyer persona for, say, speak organisers. They're much smaller buyer personas, and that's obviously a different objective. But our primary one is Nicola.
Good. So you, by the sound of things, you're obviously extremely focused, and that helps you with your content, as you say, because you're writing for a specific person and what are their pain points and needs relevant to your business and the services that you offer. So there's some key learnings in that, and as you say, that's part of that is on your the flip side of your template, web marketing universe template.
I've actually got that in front of me here, Trevor. This is just the printout version of it for the viewers anyway. And there's the back side of it there where they fill out the buyer persona information, and that's a free download off our website. It's off actually on our homepage, bluewiremedia.com.au.
Excellent. I'll put a link to that in the show notes. Well, thanks very much, Adam, for your time. We've had a few technical difficulties, so we'll be patching a bit of this together in terms of an edit. But you've still laid out some great advice and key learnings for people in business generally, and what they can do from a web marketing and point of view, but with a focus on the content side of things. So congratulations to you and Toby on the book, Web Marketing That Works, and it'll go really, really well for you. Just for listeners and viewers of this interview, I really recommend the book. it's just jam-packed. So it's probably not a book that you'd read from cover to cover, but dip into and out, because it's got, you cover so many areas and so many good bits of advice and templates that to link to and everything. So it's certainly one of those books that you have by your on your desk as a referral whenever you're going to anything to do with SEO, web marketing, and even obviously content and social and the whole bit. So congratulations, Adam, on that, and I hope it goes really, really well for you.
Thank you, Trevor. Thanks so much for leading the way with the book publishing and everything too. Toby and I have certainly followed your work and been inspired by what you've done. So thank you there, and thanks for the support of the book.
No problem. Cheers, mate.
No worries.